You are sitting at your desk staring at a blank screen, but in your mind you are already accepting the award. You can feel the weight of the trophy in your hands and hear the roar of a crowd that hasn't met you yet. For as long as you can remember, there has been a quiet, humming frequency in the back of your brain telling you that you are different. You aren't just another person in the crowd. You are meant for something massive. You are, quite literally, destined for greatness. Most people look at you and see someone who is stuck. They see a folder full of half-finished projects, a notebook of billion-dollar ideas that never left the page, and a person who spends more time talking about the future than living in the present. They call this laziness. They call it a lack of discipline or a failure to launch. They think the reason you haven't started yet is because you don't care enough. But the truth is far stranger. You aren't doing nothing because you don't care. You are doing nothing because you care too much. You are paralyzed by the weight of your own potential. For you, the act of starting is the most dangerous thing you could ever do. Because as long as you don't start, your potential remains infinite. But the moment you take that first real step, you risk discovering that you are just as ordinary as everyone else. In the late 1920s, a psychologist named Vera Mahler discovered something that explains exactly why your brain feels so satisfied even when you haven't moved an inch. She found that if we share our intentions with others, and they acknowledge them, our brain experiences a premature sense of completeness. Decades later, NYU researcher Peter Gollwitzer took this further. He found that when you tell someone about your big dreams, the book you're going to write, the business you're going to build, your brain receives a hit of dopamine that is almost identical to the reward of actually doing the work. The social recognition of being a person who is going to do great things becomes a substitute for actually doing the things. You become addicted to the identity of a winner without ever having to step onto the field. Your brain essentially tricks itself into thinking the race is already won because you describe the finish line so vividly. This is why you feel that strange, hollow satisfaction after a long night of planning. You've done the mental work of succeeding, so your body feels no need to do the physical work of trying. But there is a darker layer to this paralysis. It is a psychological defense mechanism called self-handicapping. In 1978, researchers Edward Jones and Stephen Berglas identified a pattern where people intentionally create obstacles for themselves to protect their self-esteem. If you never actually try your hardest, you can never truly fail. If you stay at zero, you can always tell yourself, I could have been a genius if I'd only applied myself. This allows you to keep your identity as a potential great perfectly intact. If you were to give 100% effort and still only achieve a mediocre result, the dream would be dead. You would have to face the reality of your current limits. To avoid that pain, you choose the safety of the starting line. You choose to be a person who is about to start forever. It is a state of perpetual potentiality, where you are never judged because you never competed. This often stems from what Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck calls a fixed mindset. If you were praised as a gifted child, you likely learned that your value comes from being naturally talented, not from working hard. As an adult, this makes effort feel like a threat. If you have to work hard at something, it must mean you aren't actually destined for it. The destined version of you shouldn't have to struggle, so you wait. You wait for the perfect moment, the perfect tools, and the perfect mood. You tell yourself that you are waiting for inspiration, but you are actually waiting for a version of the task that doesn't involve the risk of being average. You stay in the planning phase because the planning phase is the only place where the result is still perfect. On the page of your imagination, the book is a masterpiece. In the reality of your laptop, it's just a messy first draft. This gap between who you think you are and what you are actually doing creates a constant, low-level static of anxiety. You walk through the world feeling like a king in exile, secretly resentful of people who are doing lesser work, but actually finishing it. You see their success as a fluke or a sign that the world doesn't appreciate true vision. But deep down, you know the truth. They are moving while you are standing still. Modern life has made this trap even easier to fall into. We live in an era of digital markers. You can buy the expensive gym gear, follow the elite entrepreneurs, and post the grind aesthetic without ever breaking a sweat. You are curating the museum of your future life before you've even built the foundation. You are living in a mirror world where the reflection of success is more important than the substance of it. The irony is that your big dreams, the ones you think are your greatest asset, are actually your biggest distraction. They are so large that they make the tiny, boring steps of reality look insignificant. Why write one page when the vision is for 1,000? Why save $10 when the dream is 1,000,000,000? You look at the mountain peak and feel so overwhelmed by the distance that you decide to stay in the valley and just talk about the view. To break this cycle, you have to do something that feels like a betrayal of your identity. You have to give up the idea that you are destined for greatness. You have to accept the possibility that you might just be a beginner. You have to trade the infinite potential of maybe for the messy, limited reality of now. You have to be willing to be a person who tries and fails, rather than a person who dreams and waits. Because the world doesn't care about the genius inside your head. It doesn't care about the masterpieces you almost wrote or the businesses you nearly started. The world only interacts with what you put into it. Your potential is not a trophy, it is a debt. And the only way to pay it is to stop looking at the finish line and start looking at your feet. Tonight, you will probably close your eyes and see that same vision again. You will see the stage, the crowd, and the version of you that finally made it. It feels good to go to sleep as a legend. It feels safe to stay in the dream where you can't be touched by the friction of effort. But tomorrow, when you wake up, the screen will still be blank. The notebook will still be empty. And you will still be sitting at your desk, staring at a future that hasn't started yet.